need to stop having all this big money. You guys, all the Lobster Newberg, this stuff has to go. And they're going to listen to you? Why would they do that? It's a private club. It's a private party with private funding. And they have zero interest in changing that. If you show up and you start yelling about democratic process, in a pinch, they'll do what they did with the primary. They'll go to court, and if they have to, they'll admit this is all a sham, as they did in open court. It was all a sham. It's a private club where read the fine print. We're under no obligation to run a free and fair primary. Did you notice we have super delegates? Does that seem like a party that's interested in what you think about who should be elected? Take a hint, guys. Take a hint. I mean, at the end of the day, all the Bernie people, all of us who got involved in that, it was very naive in the end. Look, I think a lot of us have mixed feelings about Bernie at this point. He has a lot to do with why we're sitting here speaking now. But at the same time, Jimmy Dore was right. I'm going to get a bumper sticker. Jimmy Dore was right. Yes, he was sheepdogging everybody into that party. And if you don't mean revolution, don't say revolution. If you really mean revolution, that's revolution. That means when they steal it from you, you go and run as an independent. You go you're in the best position to start a credible third party of anyone since the founding of the Republican Party, and you won't do it, then don't talk revolution. Don't talk that shit. The saddest thing about that was all of the Hill bots used to throw at us how Bernie is just a branding exercise. This is all a sham. And in the end, they were right. In the end, they were proven right in that regard. Keaton?
Yeah, I mean, well, I was just going to say, I mean, that was a broader answer than I would have given, but I guess, I mean, that's fine. When it comes to, AOC and her recent statement about relational harm, I think that speaks to everything that you just said there, to these people, once they get in there, their relationships are what matter most to them. And the thing that I found really interesting about the Republican Force the Vote episode that they just had on their side is that there was no relational harm suffered by Lauren Boebert or Matt Gaetz or any of them. There was no relational harm. They pressed for a new church committee, and they got that new church committee 221 to 211. Every single Republican voted for their new church committee. They didn't lose one goddamn person. So they suffered no relational harm. What does relational harm mean? You either get the votes or you don't get the votes. Doesn't matter whether they like you or not. Who cares? Who cares? The bottom line is, are they going to vote the way you want? And in this most recent example, the Republican Party came out of it totally unified when it came to what matters, which is how they vote. And the only reason they had that vote in the first place is because Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, et al. Put their leadership through 14 rounds of humiliation and scared the hell out of them to the point where they say, okay, fine, we'll have a vote to form this committee. And every single Republican voted the way the 20 Freedom Caucus holdouts wanted them to vote. So there is no real relational harm in any actual political sense. Maybe you get talked about at cocktail parties in a way that you wouldn't want to. You think Matt Gaetz cares about that? I don't. Lauren Boebert, does she care about that? Doesn't seem like it. That's how you got to do it. That's how you got to do it if you are a quote-unquote fringe faction within one of these two major parties. And on the right, they have people who are willing to do that. On the left, we don't. And it's that simple. That's how it boils down.
That's what they said about Reagan, right? He primaried Ford, right? He was a fringe radical doing great relational harm to his reputation. 4 years later, he was the president.
Right.
That's how you do it.
Republican Party is infinitely more democratic. Like they don't have super delegates. Go figure. They actually go with what their base wants. I don't agree with them on policy, but as far as their party politics go within their party, they're infinitely more democratic. And imagine what would happen if the actual progressive caucus was actually progressive and acted as a caucus. Because that's what I was just saying. Like, I don't understand the point of having any of those groups that don't do anything. And the only thing that Gates and company did really was have things brought to the floor for votes, which, by the way, shouldn't be something that a representative of people should have to fight tooth and nail to have happen. So to me, that's just crazy anyway. And what it really comes down to, Alex, I don't think it's relational issues. I think it has to do with AIPAC and the Democratic Majority for Israel issues and the threat of being primaried and the threat of a lot of things happening to you if you don't comply. That's what I think. That's the relations I think she's speaking about.
Well, they don't want to wind up in the Chris Cuomo garage doing interviews.
I saw that.
How mean they were to him as a child.
Yeah.
But to me, that doesn't compute, because if you're so popular in your own district, if you're really involved with what's going on in the community in terms of making it better, especially if you're in New York, and listen, I give Alex a lot of credit for what she has done to inspire a lot of people in New York City. Her efforts on the Hill are obviously slim to none, if anything at all. But in terms of what has happened in New York City, I would definitely say that she has had a direct correlation to the amount of people that have stepped up for especially city council positions and things like that. But in terms of actually sinking your teeth in and actually being a problem for the electoral, establishment, if you will, she hasn't taken that leap, and I don't think she's going to take it anytime soon, because as many have suggested, she's playing the long game. And unfortunately, in the Democratic Party, you could be playing the long game for 20 years, because the leadership of that party, they're all in their 80s, with the exception of now of Hakeem Jeffries. But when the two leaders of your party are from New York City, when people talk about the Democratic Party being a party of coastal elites, I mean, you're just giving the independent, average voter all the information they need to form a conclusion of that we don't really care about working people in this country.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.